Katie from Nerd Church here. This is a continuation of our series on the papacy in the 20th and 21st century. And right now I want to focus on Pius X. Pius X is a very important pope because he's pretty much the last pope that everybody agrees was a really good pope. Pius was really the pope who decided that he was going to follow along with Leo XIII's move to have the Pope go from being a secular prince and a player on the world stage in Italian politics to being essentially someone whose power came from moral suasion and by working with individual lay Catholics to try to get the Catholic Church operating as a family, as a unit, as something that, as a group of people that could do a lot of good things if we got organized. Pius is the one who does that, and one of the things that Pius does is he institutes some really major reforms. So we get things like the 1917 Code of Canon Law, which was essentially a product of Pius's papacy. For example, the age of First Communion got dropped to the age of 7, to the great delight of Catholic grandmas everywhere. And I think it's fair to say, looking at the picture, that, Pius had charisma. Like, he had presence. He had that little bit of, movie star whatever it is that makes old Catholic ladies go, he reminds me of my Salvatore. Or, it gives elderly Catholic ladies the feeling that maybe if fate had gone differently, they wouldn't have married Joe and Pius X wouldn't have become Pope. It's that kind of very safe parasocial relationship that becomes very important because it means that you have Catholics who are willing to participate and are willing to do things and are willing to act on behalf of and in support of the Pope. And Pius X is the first person who really realized that and got a handle on it. Because Pius was also the first peasant to be elected to the papacy in a very long time. Yes, he was Italian, but he wasn't from a good family. Or rather, he was from a respectable family. He was from a pious family. He was from the kind of family where you took your very smartest boy and you sent him to school, and then you sent him to seminary, and then everybody in the village was proud to know that that their village had given the church a priest, that this family had given the church a priest. And even better, they gave the church a pope. So in a way, his election was a validation not just of Italian culture, but of Italian peasant culture. And his major concern was catechesis, was making sure that every single Catholic knew the basics of the faith, was going to Mass regularly, and also was receiving the sacraments regularly. Pius X is the one who takes the sacraments, who takes communion from being something that people are receiving maybe once a year to something that people are encouraged to receive daily or even weekly, or at minimum weekly, right? So the expectation is that come Sunday morning, you should be in a state of grace that will allow you to accept communion. That's Pius X. So the ironic thing is that traditional Catholics love Pius because Pius condemns modernism and Pius is a reformer. And Catholics who consider themselves progressive, gutter Catholics, moderates, whatever you want to call them, love Pius X because he was a reformer pope. He was a peasant who looked at what the church needed and tried to give that to the church and recognized that reform was going to be necessary. So in that model of it, Vatican II isn't a rupture. Vatican II is a continuation of Pius X. It all depends on how you look at it and whether you're looking at it upside down. And sometimes that involves looking at things upside down. But remember, and this is why I called that things go sideways and then the world goes upside down. It's because how was St. Peter crucified? Upside down. Upside down is where the Pope ought to be. And upside down means depending, like Peter, on the power of persuasion and the authority of the office, and not on military power, and not on owning land. And Pius was the Pope that made sure that the changes and the reforms that happened under Leo XIII were going to become church policy. So, very interesting Pope, makes a lot of important changes, and, you know, the SSPX is going to go into schism, shouting his name, and Leo is going to say, hey, I'm the Pope. I'm the successor of Pius X. Like it or don't. So that is my little spiel, and I hope that you will stick around for more Nerd Church content. Like, share, and subscribe.